They kidnapped me in the middle of the night, blindfolded me, chained my hands, and threw me into a place they call the Arena of Revenge. It had 10 levels of survival: traps, mazes, fire, water. I had only 24 hours to make it through or die trying. I thought it was just a game, but I was wrong. It was a show for those who enjoy watching others suffer. And they will regret ever doing this to people. When the blindfold was ripped off, the first thing I saw was light, blinding, white, merciless light. I was standing in the center of what looked like a giant underground stadium. High metal walls surrounded me on all sides. Dozens of cameras pointed down from every corner, their little red dots blinking like hungry eyes. A booming voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Welcome, contestant. This is your arena of revenge. 10 levels. 24 hours. Survive them all, or die here." My stomach dropped. My wrists still burned from the chains they'd used to drag me in. I looked up at the walls, hoping to see faces, someone I could beg for answers. But the seats were empty. No audience, only the cameras. This wasn't for a crowd. This was for someone watching privately. The floor shifted beneath my feet. A metal door slammed open in front of me, revealing a narrow hallway glowing orange. Heat rolled out in a suffocating wave. I stepped forward and saw it, rows of flamethrowers lining the walls, hissing like monsters waiting to breathe. On the far side, a digital clock counted down, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That was all I had. The voice returned. "Run, or burn." I clenched my fist. Whoever built this place wanted me to panic, to fail. But I forced myself forward, step by step. The first flamethrower roared to life, sending a sheet of fire across the hall. I felt my skin sear just from the heat. I timed the bursts, 1, 2, 3 seconds apart, then sprinted through. My heart slammed against my ribs. By the time I reached the other side, sweat poured down my face. My arms shook, but I was alive. I'd beaten level 1. The next chamber was dark. Too dark. The only light came from faint strips along the floor, guiding me into twisting corridors of steel. A giant sign blinked above me. "Find the exit. Time limit, 15 minutes." I stepped inside. The walls were smooth, cold, and impossibly high. Every few seconds I heard metallic clanks, doors sliding shut, walls shifting. The maze was alive, changing around me. Panic clawed at my throat. I ran left, then right, trying to remember my path, but every turn looked the same. Cameras followed me, whirring softly. Somewhere, I knew someone was laughing at my desperation. Then I saw it, a shadow on the wall. Another figure moving. My chest froze. Was I not alone? "Hello," I called. My voice echoed back, mocking me. The shadow didn't respond. It moved faster, darting around corners. I chased it, half crazed, until I slammed into a dead end. When I turned back, the shadow was gone. But on the wall, scratched in jagged letters, I saw words. "They did this to me too." By the time I stumbled out of the maze, my legs were trembling. The next chamber was worse. It was a pool, huge black water stretching wall to wall, with only small floating platforms scattered across. The clock above read 8 o'clock. 8 minutes. The voice laughed through the speakers. "Sink or swim. Your choice." I jumped to the first platform. It wobbled violently, nearly dumping me into the water. I steadied myself, then leapt to the next. My arms flailed, barely catching balance. Halfway across, I looked down. Something moved in the water, long, dark shapes circling beneath the surface. My heart hammered. These weren't just traps. They were killers. I forced myself forward, jump after jump. The platforms got smaller, shakier. My foot slipped once, plunging into the water. Something brushed against my leg, slick, strong. I yanked myself up, gasping. Finally, I hurled myself onto the last platform and collapsed. My chest burned, lungs screaming for air. I'd made it. Barely. I lay there, staring up at the cameras. "Why me?" I whispered. "Who's doing this?" No answer. Just silence. But deep inside, a seed of rage began to grow. Whoever was behind this, whoever built this nightmare for their sick pleasure, they thought I was weak. They thought I'd break. They were wrong. I stumbled into the next chamber, my legs still trembling from the water pit. The air was colder here, damp, heavy, almost suffocating. I could hear the faint hum of machinery hidden behind the walls, as if the entire arena was alive, breathing. The floor beneath me rumbled, and metal plates slid open, revealing dozens of narrow poles rising from the ground. Each one looked razor-sharp, pointing upward like the teeth of some giant beast. A thin walkway stretched above them, swaying as though it could collapse any second. The countdown clock blinked to life, 5 o'clock. I didn't think. I ran. The walkway shook under every step, bolts squealing as though they were about to snap. My arms spread out for balance, but halfway across, a section gave way. Metal groaned, and suddenly I was dangling above the spikes, my fingers clawing at the edge. For a moment I thought it was over. I thought I would fall. But adrenaline burned through me. I pulled myself up, scraped my knee raw, and crawled the rest of the way across until I collapsed on solid ground again. The cameras above me whirred, adjusting to capture my suffering. I could almost hear whoever was watching whisper, "Good. Struggle. Break." But I didn't break. Not yet. The next door slammed open with a hiss. Inside was a cavernous chamber filled with cages. Dozens of them. Some were empty. Some weren't. I froze. Inside the cages were people, or what was left of them. Broken bodies, wide terrified eyes, some whispering for help, others too weak to speak. My stomach turned to ice. One man reached out through the bars as I passed. His voice was nothing more than a rasp. They make us fight, for them. Don't trust the voice, it's not a game. It's never a game. Before I could answer, alarms blared. The cages shook violently, slamming shut with sparks flying from the locks. The man's hand slipped back inside just in time before the bars snapped closed like jaws. The loudspeaker crackled again, mocking me with that calm, distorted tone. No helping the weak. Move forward or join them. I clenched my fist. Rage boiled inside me, hotter than the fire from the first chamber. These monsters weren't just testing survival. They were collecting people, breaking them for sport. The door at the end slid open, revealing a staircase spiraling upward. I took one last look at the cages. Those eyes, hollow, desperate, burned into my memory. I swore then that I would not only survive this arena. I would make them pay for every scream, every scar, every ruined life hidden in these walls. I started to climb. And with every step, my anger grew stronger than my fear. The staircase twisted upward for what felt like forever, the metallic clang of my footsteps echoing into the void. My body screamed for rest, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Every step carried me closer to whoever had built this nightmare. At the top, a heavy steel door groaned open, and I stepped into the largest chamber yet. It was circular, an arena within the arena. Bright floodlights snapped on overhead, burning my eyes. The floor was covered with strange markings like some ritual carved into concrete. At the far side, a raised platform overlooked everything, and on that platform stood them. The architects of my torment. There were 3 of them, faces hidden behind black masks, watching me in silence. Cameras surrounded them, recording every move, every breath. Behind the masks I could feel their satisfaction, their hunger. A distorted voice filled the chamber. Congratulations. If you make it this far. You've proven yourself strong. Now prove yourself worthy. From the ceiling, chains rattled and suddenly, cages dropped down around me. Each one held another prisoner. Some screamed, some were silent, all broken. The cages slammed open at once and the prisoners stumbled out, dazed, terrified. The voice continued. Only one leaves alive. Survive, and you win freedom. My stomach turned cold. They wanted me to fight the others, to become just another animal in their sick game. The prisoners looked at me with wide, hollow eyes, some ready to attack, others too weak to move. I shook my head. No, I won't play your game. But the walls answered with fire. Jets of flame burst out, forcing us all toward the center. One man lunged at me with a jagged piece of metal. I dodged, my instincts screaming, and shoved him away. Another came from behind, swinging wildly. I had no choice. I fought. Every strike, every desperate scream echoed like thunder. Blood splattered across the floor. I hated myself for it, but survival clawed deeper than guilt. Minutes felt like hours until finally, silence. I was the last one standing. My chest heaved, every breath like knives in my lungs. Around me lay bodies, innocent people forced into monsters just like me. The masked figures clapped slowly, mockingly. Impressive. You've earned your way out. A door opened at the side of the chamber. Freedom. Sunlight spilled through, golden and beautiful. But as I stared at it, I realized something. If I walked out now, I'd be free, but the arena would continue. Others would be kidnapped, tortured, broken just like me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ending this. I turned away from the door and glared up at the masked figures. My voice cracked but carried through the chamber. You think you're untouchable. You think you're gods. But this is over. Before they could react, I grabbed one of the fallen prisoner's chains and hurled it at the nearest camera. Sparks exploded. The arena lights flickered, plunging the chamber into chaos. The figures shouted, their calm shattered. Doors slammed shut, alarms blared, and in the confusion I ran, not toward the exit but toward the platform. Up the stairs, two at a time, rage burning hotter than fear. One of the masked figures pulled a weapon, but I crashed into him, driving us both into the control panel. Electricity sparked and he fell limp. The others fled, their masks slipping as they vanished into hidden doors. The monitors behind the panel showed everything, every chamber, every cage, every prisoner still trapped deeper in the arena. My heart pounded. This was bigger than me. This was a machine built on human suffering. And now I controlled it. I stared into the cameras knowing someone, somewhere, was still watching. My hands tightened into fists. You wanted a show? Fine. Let's give them one. With one final pull, I slammed the master switch. Sirens roared to life, gates unlocking, cages opening. The arena of revenge began to crumble from within, its traps turning against their masters. I didn't just survive. I took their nightmare and made it theirs.